When you think about Montana, you probably think about a lot of things, maybe hunting and fishing, maybe outdoors, camping, hiking, Yellowstone, all the natural beauty. Maybe you don't think about manufacturing though, but I do. There's a lot of reasons for that. If you stay tuned, we'll tell you why.
Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Manufacturing Talks. I'm your host, Jim Vinosky. We're sponsored by Cosgrove Content, wordsmiths for industry. So if you work in a technical field and you struggle to find someone who can write about what you do, look at cosgrovecontent.com. I think we can help you out. And I'm pleased today to be joined by Scott Sehnert. He is a VP at First Security Bank in Bozeman, Montana, and he is president of the Montana Manufacturing Association. Welcome. How are you, Scott?
Great. Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
Thanks
Good
for
to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. This one's exciting. I just got done writing about you guys for Forbes, and I had learned about some things through our common friend John Suh at Hyundai, and just really cool stuff going on in Montana. I think a lot of people might be surprised to hear how much you guys have going on out there in manufacturing.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time to be here. It's been great to, be involved with John and his team and the Hyundai announcement, seeing what they're planning and then just bringing really the whole Montana manufacturing ecosystem together to not only assist John, but, welcome them into the community and the state and help them grow their enterprise here.
Well, we'll be diving into some details about all of that. But before we do, I wanted to hear more about you and specifically, you're a banker. We don't see a lot of bankers in my world of manufacturing. So tell us about yourself and how you got tied up in this world.
Sure. I've always thought it was cool to build things. And I think maybe it came from my childhood growing up in my grandfather and father's Ford dealership. And they also built race cars for people, drag cars, and,
cool.
And we have pictures of Grandpa and back in the 30s, what currently look like sprint cars, but they were Indy cars. So building those from scratch. So it's always been, grew up in a family of builders, if you will.
Yeah.
Was fortunate when I started my banking career to really in the Midwest in Iowa, being in an area that was heavily influenced by manufacturing, and I was fortunate enough to have a portfolio strictly of manufacturing clients that I was able to help grow throughout the years, and was able to work with some publicly traded companies and some large family-owned companies. And then one of my clients, asked me to come join his team, and I went to do finance and special project work for a value-added beef manufacturer, and spent a few years doing that, being on the other side of the table before coming back into banking. And so I've really focused my career on helping manufacturers grow, operational excellence, not only on the floor, but in the room, and how to streamline, eliminate waste on the finance side and help them improve their cash flow. Mm-hmm. I came to Montana 10 years ago and developed a great relationship with the Montana Manufacturing Extension Center, and really just have been partnering with them and growing, and was asked to join the board of the MMA given my background, and eventually became the president and chair, and working with manufacturers and manufacturing groups throughout the state, along with Governor Gianforte's Department of Commerce, helping attract and retain and expand manufacturers throughout the state.
Very cool. And so that leads right into my second question. Interesting for me, I had written about Hyundai's New Horizon Studio work on the ultimate mobility vehicle back a couple of years ago, and then heard they had signed up to actually build their R&D center there in Bozeman. And that's when I first became aware of some of these efforts. And, be honest with you, like I think a lot of people, when we hear about Montana, manufacturing isn't necessarily the first thing that comes to mind. You guys have a lot of other cool stuff going on there, but tell me more about, what's the driver behind this effort? Where were you before this most recent kind of initiative or set of initiatives, and where do you see yourselves going?
Yeah, that's a great question. The Hyundai attraction, that was a huge team effort. That was a large group of people, including Governor Gianforte, Director Osterman at Commerce, folks at MSU, different economic developments, really coming together as a team to attract John and his team to come to Bozeman. Before that, when we look at manufacturing in Montana, it's really been going on for quite some time, kind of flying under the radar, if you will. I would say the pandemic brought some of the top manufacturing to life when, in the early days, there was the shortage of PPE and hand sanitizers. And what was really cool is we had groups of manufacturers here in the state, from distillers and plastic injection molding companies, come together and develop new products to get out to the marketplace to help with that PPE issue and the hand sanitizer issue, and we got some good press there. And then during the pandemic, we saw the influx of migration into Montana, and then we had some companies move in, or their executives move into Montana and recognize the benefits here. And then lo and behold, a little TV show that came out, and with the name of a national park that happens to be sitting about 90 miles from Bozeman, happens to be the most watched TV program out there right now. And so I think, the notoriety of that television show has also spurred not only visitation, but people that come out here, and we're seeing a lot of companies that would like to consider relocating from states that may not be as business friendly as Montana, and looking for that ease of life, if you will. It makes it pretty easy to get up to go to work every morning when you walk out the door and you look around and you're surrounded by 6 to 10 mountain ranges. You are out here, you saw what it's, what our daily morning drive is. So it's really, I think we've always been known as a recreation area and not a manufacturing area. And I think we've just, through the efforts of various organizations, we've really elevated our visibility. And then when you look at the pandemic spurred, the growth in the outdoor industry. And when you look at Montana, we're a hub of outdoor gear manufacturers. We have some of the top global brands sitting right here in Bozeman, that, like Sims Fishing and Mr. Ranch backpacks and Sitka wear. So, we've always been a kind of an outdoor manufacturer, and that's been elevated. And then also we've spun off out of MSU our photonics industry, which we're one of the top photonics hubs in the country, manufacturing some really cool stuff like lasers and cryogenic scientific laboratory equipment that's going to be used and being used in the race for quantum computing, if you will. As well as, we've got West Paw dog toy manufacturer here, and Gibson guitars. So it's like every acoustic guitar that you see on stage these days is made right here in Bozeman. So just a lot of cool manufacturing things going on statewide that's really getting national attention.
Yeah, and you raise a couple of points. That's an important one, is even though a lot of us farther afield might not realize it, you already did have a pretty solid manufacturing base there in Montana before all these recent initiatives. But the other thing too is you have been at work at this now for a few years, because I saw some of the previous initiatives around making Montana more business friendly and specifically manufacturing friendly. And so you tie that work that's already gone on with what you said about the environment and the desirability of living out there. You know, you guys are starting off this latest round of initiatives on a really strong footing, right?
Right. Yeah. And you know, we're getting more and more traction and help. Department of Commerce has been very helpful in helping us put together some initiatives. When you read the article about Hyundai, we did that without a lot of big incentives, like some states do. Virtually none. But what we have done with Commerce is taken some funds and developed some low interest rate loan programs.
Right.
We're just getting ready to roll one out here in the next week or so, a low interest rate automation loan program for manufacturers that want to initiate automation and robotics into their processes to help with their workforce challenges, like everybody around the country has.
Right.
And so we've developed those low interest rate programs to where it makes it a very affordable loan for them to go buy their piece of equipment, and then once it gets paid back, that money can go back into the economy and help other businesses grow and prosper. So while we don't give things away, if you will, we do have some great incentives to help grow and build jobs here in the state.
Yeah. It's one thing that really impressed me was that there weren't those big, huge one-off kind of pot sweeteners that you do see so many other places. I think, they work great in the time, but too often there are promises made that aren't kept. And then there's the battle over, should people pay stuff like that back? All you guys are doing is trying to make a more consistently attractive environment for people to kind of set up there and stay there, right?
Right. And I'm a firm believer, and I believe a lot of people in Montana are this way. We're hard work, a lot of hard workers out here, and a lot of self-made businesses. And, we're not we don't want handouts. We want skin in the game. And I think, when you have skin in the game, you're not going to walk away from something. So, right. I think that's one of the things the governor's been very good at is we're giving the opportunities for growth and new companies coming in, but we want them to have skin in the game, become part of the community, come to the football, hang out with us on the trout streams or the ski hill, and just become part of the community. It's such a cool state.
Yep. When I was talking to John Suh about the reasons they decided to put the R&D center out there, he certainly mentioned the attractive business climate. He also mentioned, you're putting in an R&D center for this ultimate mobility vehicle that is both wheeled and legged. Where better to test it than the mountains up there, right? So yeah, a little natural draw for him for sure. But the other thing is the schools. I mean, he's right there on the campus of Montana State, right? And then you got all the people coming out of there and the other schools in the area. Talk a little more about that.
Yeah, so Montana State has a great engineering program. So manufacturers have been able to tap into that resource and get engineers coming right out of MSU, which has been a great resource for the state and the companies. And University of Montana has a really strong business school. So what we're seeing is we've got a great talent pool of kids coming out of the various schools, whether it be finance and business or engineering. We have the 2-year colleges like Gallatin College here in Bozeman that are training folks that maybe don't want to get into the full engineering, but they want to know how to run a CNC machine and get certified in those areas, or welding. And we've got Tech up in Butte. So, that develops a lot of mining engineers. So we've got a great engineering protocol in the state, I feel. And with the growth in manufacturing and, seeing better paying jobs continue, I've talked to so many people that said, when they grew up here and went to school, when they graduated, many, many years ago, there were no opportunities. So they had to leave and didn't want to. Now, with what we're doing at the state level and attracting companies such as Hyundai and building better paying jobs, the Montana kids now have the opportunity to stay in Montana to be with their families if they so choose to do that. We know we're not going to keep them all, but at least, there is the opportunity for families to stay together. And I think, overall, being able to keep that nucleus family together, especially in a rural state like Montana, is so important. And, just overall helps the overall state, in my opinion.
Yeah, right. And it's not just kids either. You guys had shared with me that initiative you just really got going on, from what I understand, the lean leadership piece. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, one of the things through the Montana Manufacturing Extension Center is they've had a lean bronze program for several years. I went through that program 3 or 4 years ago. It was pre-pandemic. You kind of lose track of time, on
Right.
on that lost year. But and then just recently they had their first cohort of lean silver certification program, which I went through, and it was fortunate enough with the first cohort, we had 100% pass rate, which allows, what that does is digs deep into the value stream.
Mm-hmm.
So we're able to go out, talk to companies and help them streamline, not only, like I said, not only on the floor, but in the back room, help them eliminate waste, and then bring various manufacturers together to brainstorm on common challenges. I mean, and we're not competitive in that way, and it's a very collaborative group of people in this state when it comes to the manufacturing, coming together, trying to collectively attack problems and challenges that we all face, right, whether it be cybersecurity or supply chain. Looking at ways because of some of the logistic challenges, are there ways that common manufacturers can group together to do a co-op buy, if you will, for common materials, and then have it at a close warehouse where little milk runs can be done versus having to buy a half a year of inventory that just sits on the shelf. And
right. Yep.
Through those types of programs, and then some of the other things that are out there, we formed the Southwest Montana Manufacturing Partnership, which is a group of manufacturers coming together, forming work groups. We have an operational excellence work group. I'm working on a financial excellence in manufacturing work group. We're going to have automation, robotics, and cybersecurity, as well as some others. And then we're seeing that happen up in Northwest Montana in the Kalispell Whitefish area, of a group, of manufacturers coming together. And I think our goal would be to see those regional hubs of manufacturers come together, and then that allows them to come to us at MMA with common issues that they want us to approach, the governor and the legislature, and lobby on behalf of the manufacturers to help the industry continue to grow.
Yeah. And I applaud you guys. I had heard the same thing earlier about how collaborative the manufacturers are out there, and actually had to correct someone who said that's kind of the way we are everywhere. And it's not really the case. I've lived in parts of the country where manufacturers are, they keep things very close to their vest. I think they have all these trade secrets they have to protect. And yeah, there's that to some degree, but at the same time, you risk kind of, cutting your own throat if you're too closed in and you don't collaborate amongst each other to further everyone's business, right?
Yeah, and we just did this a couple of weeks ago, and it's just really, in my opinion, really exemplifies the collaboration and cooperation. So through the operational excellence work group, we did a Gemba walk at a local machine shop here in Bozeman, and there were about 10 of us from different companies coming through. They provided us with their sheets of their standard work. We went down on the floor and observed the workflow and the work cells and just made observations. And then we went up to a conference room, and there, three of their top guys are sitting there listening to people that have nothing to do with their company, giving them advice on what they can do to be better at their processes. And they're just very thankful and grateful to get this information. And to me, that's just an amazing feat to have a complete group of strangers come in and critique your workflow.
Yeah, it speaks extremely well of the guys leading that place, because again, you think people from the outside have nothing to offer with no expertise, but it's also the fact that those of us in our operations, over time we get the blinders on, and we sometimes can't see the opportunities in front of us because we're too used to seeing everything operating the way it does every day, day in, day out. So that's really cool. The other thing you kind of referred to is working with the MEPs, and that's another thing that I've been highlighting in my speaking and writing, is how much the MEPs, the manufacturing extension partnerships across the country, bring to the table now, but how much more opportunity there is. There are places where so much of industry doesn't even tap into those resources.
Right. And that's the one thing. And then I know ours here, MMEC, the one here in Montana, gets highly ranked every year in the MEP programs. But it's an amazing resource that they've done a good job of expanding their advisors, getting out there and talking to manufacturers and helping them through a lot of the challenges, and helping them with workflow and just and as our country ages and a lot of the owners are baby boomers, we need to start thinking about transition readiness, and and so we're able to bring some of those educational pieces to those business owners. What do you want to do? What's the end game? And we have seen, and what we're seeing here in Montana has been really cool, is we're really seeing an increase in private capital and M&A activity happening in the state, where groups are coming in, making large investments in Montana companies to help them grow, stay in Montana, maintain and grow the jobs and wages in Montana, as well as some companies coming in and making some sizable acquisitions, such as the Vista Outdoors acquisition of Sims Fishing. What a lot of people didn't know is that Vista Outdoors already owned two Bozeman outdoor manufacturers, Blackhawk and Stone Glacier. So they have three Bozeman outdoor companies in their portfolio. We've recently seen Federal Signal come in and acquire Towhaul and make the commitment to keep the operation and jobs here in Belgrade. So we are seeing some really cool investment in Montana companies that are helping with that transition. Transition.
So let's swing back to the kind of government and business and academic consortium there that's working together to further Montana manufacturing. I know your work isn't done. In my article, I mentioned Governor Gianforte's priorities for the current legislative session. So can you touch on some of those?
Yeah, I would say the big one is the increase in the business equipment tax exemption. So, in Montana, if you're a business owner and you buy equipment, you pay tax on your equipment, and it's not a one-time sales tax. It is an annual business tax. In the last legislative session, they increased that exemption from 100 to 300,000. It's now being proposed to move it from 300 to a million. And I did get notification yesterday that it did pass the House, and now it's with the Senate. So that's looking positive. Once that passes, that's going to take, I think it's estimated it's going to take something like 4,000 businesses off that tax roll. So that will, free up some capital to help with their operations. And then, we're also, the governor and the chamber are looking at some other business-friendly legislation in regards to product liability insurance and claims, making it so that, if if I'm a retailer and I sell you something that goes haywire, trying to limit who is on that product liability claim,
right? Yeah.
To make it a little more business friendly. So it's those types of initiatives we're seeing this session is, primarily the business tax, and then some insurance and product liability and tort reform that we'd like to see to make it even a little more friendly.
So we've got a couple final questions as we get close to wrapping up here, and they're kind of tied together. So I'm going to ask them together. One is what companies in other states and the leaders of other states can learn from Montana. And then number two, companies that are considering establishing a new location, why should they consider Montana?
Sure. So what other companies and leaders can learn from some of our recent success is, we've got a great resources here in the state. When I look at everything that's out there, from Department of Commerce to Montana Manufacturing Extension Center to the various partnerships, the economic development companies, we've got a really tight group of individuals and organizations that want to work and help people succeed. I would also say, it's a fun place to do business. We work hard, we play hard, and we just, I would, just reach out. It's like, if somebody wants, the governor has always said, if somebody wants to talk about relocating their business, come out, we'll take you fishing or skiing. And then when we're done, we'll sit down and have a nice Montana grown steak and talk about your business and your family and just show you what, Montana life is all about. I mean, we've got so many opportunities, and it's always funny. It's kind of like, I asked this question yesterday of somebody, and I go, well, what would you say to somebody if they asked you, why should I move my business to Montana? And she goes, well, just tell them the truth. Montana kicks ass. And so,
good answer.
Oh, it's true. Yeah. It's just a phenomenal place to do business, and just being part of the growth and seeing these companies succeed has just been really delightful.
Yeah. Well, and I'm very happy to hear of an area of the country that has so much to offer that I already knew about, that's also doing so well in, my corner of the business world. So great job in all of that. And I certainly wish you guys all the best. Is there anything on the subject that we haven't touched on that people ought to know?
Oh, no, I mean, just, it's an amazing part of the world, as you've seen. People are welcoming. It's just, the business climate is so good, and the, so many, I can't even talk about all I know I've missed some, but there's so many resources and groups that are out there, and everybody is willing to help. We want people to succeed, because we know in manufacturing that it's a big part of our GDP. It continues to grow. And I'm sure I've heard of the multiplier effect, but when you look at the fact that for every dollar spent in manufacturing, on average, produces another $2 to $2.50 in the economy. By growing your manufacturing sector, that elevates your economy. It elevates the tax base. It makes cost of living better. And then you look at what's going on globally, the fact that we import over $500 billion from just China.
Right.
And if we can bring a portion of that back, the elevation to economies of bringing some of that back in the United States, and primarily Montana, when you take into account that multiplier effect, it really elevates an economy quite quickly.
Right.
And so, that's kind of my sermon speech today on why manufacturing and why in Montana. It's just too cool of a place not to come to.
There you go. Yeah. Well, obviously you're preaching to the choir a little bit here, but certainly there are a lot of people looking at their extended supply chains nowadays and thinking that the situation we had through COVID, maybe we don't want to go through that again. So as they're looking at pulling stuff back into the States, sounds like Montana's a really good place to look, right?
Right. It is.
Excellent.
The saying for Montana is, I was thinking about this morning. It's like, we say we're the last best place. And the reason we say that is, I truly believe it. We are. It's just an amazing place.
Good deal. Well, great job explaining everything you guys have going on out there, and keep up the great work. Thanks for joining us here today, Scott. We wish you all the best.
Jim. Thanks, Jim. I really enjoyed it. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. And thanks for everyone for tuning in and checking us out, and watch for our upcoming episodes. So long.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vanoski. Watch for new episodes dropping on the first and third Tuesdays of every month.